Aliens didn't know who'd come until the Deathworlders from the galaxy appeared. The stars had always been a map for the Zeacan coalition. For centuries, the coalition's fleets had traveled the endless void of space, confident in their technological superiority. Their ships, sleek and gleaming with energy shields, glided through the dark velvet of space like hunting birds. Yet even in this vast expanse, there were whispers of unknown worlds, sectors unclaimed, planets unexamined, dangers unimagined. On the command bridge of the flagship Aurora's Pride, Admiral Lyran surveyed the nearby system with a careful eye. His alien species, the Zeacans, had evolved in an environment of predictable hazards, where survival meant intelligence and calculation. Their planet, Violia Prime, had nurtured generations of scientists, explorers, and warriors, and they considered themselves masters of survival. Yet the readings on the sensors made Lyran pause. The readings were unlike anything the Coalition had encountered before. Long-range scans picked up a fleet approaching from the outskirts of the sector, a fleet unlike the delicate or efficient vessels of the Zeacans. These ships were heavily armored, scarred from repeated exposure to combat. They moved with a strange certainty, as if they belonged not to one planet or civilization, but to the universe itself. "They're enormous," said Lieutenant Sierra, her eyes wide as she traced the movement of the ships on the display. "And they're not responding to hails." "No energy pulses, no identification markers." Lyran frowned. "Keep trying," he ordered. "We must know who or what approaches." Even as they attempted communication, the alien sensors recorded strange signals, rapid bursts of energy that seemed to scan the sector almost instinctively, analyzing the very fabric of the space around them. There was intelligence behind it, but it was different from Zeacan logic. It felt alive. Minutes stretched into hours. Then one of the fleet's ships entered the atmosphere of an uncharted planet. The Zeacans held their breath. This was no ordinary contact. The human fleet, yes, humans, the species name that had come in whispers across the galaxy, was here. Legends spoke of them as Deathworlders, survivors of planets that could kill unprepared life in seconds. Stories told of their survival on volcanic wastelands, frozen wastelands, and jungles teeming with predators that even the Zeacans could not predict. They were a species that thrived where survival was impossible. Lyran tried to suppress the unease crawling up his spine. He had seen battles, victories, losses, and wars, but there was a certain rawness in these humans. They did not move as diplomats or negotiators. They moved as predators, calm and confident, observing and measuring everything. On the uncharted planet, the humans began to disembark. They were unlike the images in Zeacan archives. Taller than average, strong, with eyes that seemed to miss nothing, they carried tools that doubled as weapons. Each movement was precise. The soldiers, engineers, and explorers among them spread across the terrain, adapting immediately to the alien world. "Their equipment, it's self-adapting," whispered Sierra. She pointed at a human adjusting a vehicle that had landed with them. The machine seemed almost alive, shifting and recalibrating itself under the human's touch. "They don't just use technology, they improve it in seconds." Lyran's antennas twitched nervously. The humans were not merely travelers, they were a force. A force shaped by worlds that would have destroyed any other species. The aliens on the planet observed the newcomers with a mix of fascination and fear. The Zeacans had fought predators larger than buildings, traversed fields of toxic storms, and even outwitted cunning rivals. Yet they could not predict the humans' resilience. The Deathworlders moved as if the planet itself posed no threat, walking into forests that had swallowed entire Zeacan scouting teams without hesitation. Suddenly, a loud, echoing roar split the air. The planet's native predators, massive reptilian creatures with armored hides and jagged teeth, emerged from the dense jungle. The aliens froze, expecting chaos. The predator lunged at a human patrol, jaws wide, but the human soldiers didn't panic. With precise coordination, they deployed nets, energy fields, and traps. The predator, though enormous and vicious, was contained within moments. The aliens gasped. On their home worlds, they had fought predators, yes, but never had they seen any species approach death with such control, such understanding. "They are fearless," murmured a junior officer, barely above a whisper. "And clever." Lyran nodded slowly. "They survive because they see danger not as an obstacle but as a challenge." The humans continued exploring the planet, documenting its flora, analyzing its minerals and marking potential threats. Their communication was terse but effective. Every word seemed deliberate, every action efficient. The aliens began to understand that these humans were not reckless. They had simply learned to thrive where other species would falter. By the time the Zeakins decided to send a welcoming delegation, the humans had already mapped significant portions of the terrain, adapting their vehicles to rivers, mountains, and dense jungles. They built temporary shelters that could resist native predators and harsh weather. It was as if the planet itself had been waiting for them, and they had taken it in stride. Admiral Lyran approached the edge of the human encampment with a small team. He raised the universal greeting flag, projecting symbols of peace. The humans paused, observing, then responded, not with words, but with a calm nod. Their leader stepped forward, a tall human with piercing eyes and a stance that radiated confidence. Lyran felt a shiver. These beings did not bow, they did not tremble, they assessed. Every movement was a calculation, every glance an evaluation. The humans were predators, yes, but of a different kind. They were predators of survival itself. "Welcome," Lyran said finally, his voice steady despite the tension. "We are the Zeakin Coalition. We mean no harm." "We wish to learn about your species." The human leader raised a hand. "We came to explore, we adapt, we survive. We are not here to fight unless you make it necessary." There was no arrogance in the voice, there was certainty. And the Zeakins understood immediately that this certainty was born from countless worlds where failure meant death. As the first human vehicles rumbled across the alien terrain, collecting samples and scanning the air, the Coalition scientists whispered among themselves. Their calculations, their simulations, their assumptions, all had failed. These humans were beyond their models, beyond anything they had studied or predicted. Lyran turned away from the humans and looked toward the stars. Somewhere in the galaxy, stories had already begun. Stories of Deathworlders who thrived where planets themselves sought to destroy them. And now the stories were real. Hours passed. Night fell on the alien world, and strange bioluminescent creatures emerged from the forests. The humans adjusted their sensors, adapting to the dim light, while the Zeakins watched in awe. One human crouched in the darkness, eyes reflecting faint light, seemingly absorbing every detail, every movement, every danger. "It's as if they are part of the planet now," Sierra whispered. Lyran nodded. "They don't just survive, they belong, they dominate the impossible." The aliens would soon learn that the humans' presence was not just an arrival, it was a statement, a warning, and a lesson. That lesson would ripple through the Zeakin Coalition, changing the way they viewed survival, strength, and life itself. By dawn, the humans had mapped nearly half the planet, setting temporary camps in areas previously deemed too dangerous. Lyran realized something profound. These humans were not limited by fear or terrain or predators. They were limited only by imagination and determination. As the Zeakin fleet observed, they could not help but feel respect. Not for the technology, not for the weapons, but for the raw, unyielding human spirit. It was a force of nature, and it had arrived in the galaxy without warning. The aliens had long believed themselves masters of survival. But in that moment, under the alien sun and among the alien trees, they understood something humbling. The humans, the Deathworlders, were not just visitors. They were a species born to survive, thrive, and endure where others would fail. And this was only the beginning. The first part of the story ended not with a battle, not with a conflict, but with a realization. Across the planet and through the Coalition's ranks, the same thought echoed. The galaxy had underestimated humanity, and humanity had arrived. The sun of the alien planet had just begun to rise over the jagged mountains when the human sensors picked up unusual activity near the northern valley. The light reflected off the human exosuits as soldiers moved with the silent precision of predators. Every step, every scan was deliberate. They were explorers, yes, but also warriors trained to handle the unexpected. The Zeakins, observing from their fleet in orbit, tried again to make contact. A delegation was prepared, led by Admiral Lyran himself. He had chosen the calmest, most diplomatic members of his crew, hoping that human contact would be peaceful. Yet even as their vessel approached the humans' encampment, there was a sense of unease. This was not like other species they had met. These humans were not fragile diplomats. They were apex survivors, comfortable in the face of danger. The humans noticed the incoming vessel immediately. Their scanners picked up the alien ship long before it landed. The soldiers paused their tasks and watched the sky, eyes narrowed. One of them, a young human scout named Riley, adjusted a portable sensor. "They're coming down," she said simply. "Let's see what they want." The Zeacan delegation's shuttle touched down softly, kicking up dust and small rocks. Lyran and his team stepped out, antennas raised and glowing slightly as a sign of intelligence and greeting. The humans watched, motionless. Then, with a step that seemed almost casual, the human leader, tall, broad-shouldered, and calm, walked forward. Lyran took a deep breath and projected the universal greeting. Symbols of peace, waves of light, and gentle vibrations filled the air. The humans looked at the display, but no one reacted immediately. They seemed to evaluate every pattern, every pulse. The alien scientists could feel the weight of human observation. It was almost like being scanned. Finally, the human leader spoke, his voice calm, measured, and confident. "We see you, we hear you, we mean no harm, but understand this, we survive first. If you threaten life, you will see our response." The Zeacans froze. It was not a threat, not really, but it was a warning. Humans did not negotiate from fear, they negotiated from strength. And the Coalition realized that this species, these Deathworlders, operated on a scale far beyond simple diplomacy. Lyran stepped forward. "We seek understanding. We wish to know who you are and why you have come to this system. We offer peace." The human leader nodded slowly. "We came to explore, to observe, and to adapt. We do not conquer unless necessary, but make no mistake, we will survive whatever the cost." The words were simple, but the meaning was clear. The humans did not boast. They did not exaggerate. They were honest, stating the truth of their existence. And the Zeacans, proud and skilled as they were, felt a shiver. These humans were not like any species they had met. Over the next several hours, tentative interaction began. The Zeacans showed the humans their technology, vehicles, energy shields, scanning equipment. The humans studied everything with rapid calculation, noting inefficiencies, imagining improvements. Within minutes, they had adjusted alien sensors to detect predators faster and built temporary shelters that resisted both weather and potential attacks. The alien scientists whispered among themselves, astonished. "They adapt instantly," one said. "They see possibilities that we did not even imagine. They survive because they evolve in moments, not centuries," another added. Meanwhile, the humans explored the surrounding environment. They mapped rivers, measured plant growth, and documented animal behavior with an efficiency that impressed the Zeacans. It was not just observation, it was mastery of adaptation. The aliens could predict how their own species would respond to threats, but humans defied every expectation. As they moved deeper into the jungle, the humans encountered signs of dangerous creatures. Massive footprints, broken branches, and guttural sounds warned of predators. The humans did not falter. They set traps, deployed drones, and used stealth techniques to study the wildlife without endangering themselves unnecessarily. Suddenly, a massive shadow moved overhead. A flying predator, the size of a small transport ship, swooped toward the humans. The Zeacans froze in horror, expecting casualties, but the humans reacted as one. Energy nets deployed from their equipment, lifting and holding the creature midair. Another human used a device that emitted focused sound waves, disorienting it. Within moments, the threat was neutralized without a single human being harmed. The Zeacans watched, mouths open. This was no simple survival, it was precision, strategy, and instinct combined. "They are fearless," muttered Sierra, unable to hide her awe, "and smart." Lyran nodded slowly, realizing the truth. Humans did not merely survive, they dominated challenges. The aliens had faced predators and environmental hazards for centuries, but humans treated danger as a puzzle, not a threat. Later that evening, as the sky turned a pale orange and shadows stretched across the alien terrain, the human leader gathered his team. They spoke in low tones, discussing observations, planning routes, and noting potential hazards. Each soldier understood the plan without needing instructions. Every action had purpose. Lyran, observing from a safe distance, felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. This species, so young compared to the Coalition, had a resilience that bordered on legendary. They did not rely solely on technology. They relied on intelligence, coordination, and the ability to adapt instantly. The Zeacans attempted another form of communication. They projected holographic images of their homeworld, showing cities, fleets, and landscapes. The humans studied the images, noting weaknesses in architecture and efficiency in design. But they did not criticize, nor did they mock. Instead, they made suggestions quietly among themselves, improvements that could enhance durability and safety. Lyran realized something profound. These humans were not only survivors, they were teachers. They could take any challenge and turn it into an opportunity. And unlike other species, they did not hesitate. They acted, adapted, and mastered all in the same breath. As night fully settled, alien creatures with glowing eyes and sharp claws began emerging from the jungle. Predators the size of trees stalked in the darkness. The Zeakins expected panic, but the humans moved with calm assurance. They used their equipment to monitor movement, set protective perimeters, and create safe zones. No one faltered, no one screamed. Even when a massive predator broke through the outer perimeter, the humans coordinated seamlessly to neutralize it, teaching the Zeakins a lesson in strategy and courage. After the predators were contained, the Zeakin scientists quietly approached Lyran. Sir, their response was instantaneous. They did not hesitate. They understand survival in ways we cannot comprehend. Lyran sighed, looking at the humans moving through the alien landscape with quiet efficiency. They do not fight out of fear. They fight out of necessity, intelligence, and experience. They have mastered survival itself. By dawn, the humans had explored most of the northern valley. They had mapped dangerous zones, documented flora and fauna, and built temporary observation posts. The Zeakins could barely keep up. Their calculations, strategies, and simulations failed against human improvisation and instinct. In one moment, Riley, the human scout, crouched near a small stream, observing waterborne predators. She whispered into her communicator, noting patterns, movement speed, and hunting behavior. The humans around her adjusted their paths, improved their sensors, and ensured no member of the team would face unnecessary risk. The Zeakins, observing from a distance, were overwhelmed by the simplicity and brilliance of human efficiency. Their own protocols, tested for centuries, seemed clumsy in comparison. Humans did not just survive, they optimized every action, learning and adapting faster than any algorithm the aliens could design. Lyran finally approached the human leader once more. We wish to learn from you. We see your strength, your intelligence, your adaptability. You are unlike any species we have encountered. The human leader's eyes were calm, piercing, and confident. We survive because the galaxy is harsh. We adapt because life does not wait. If you respect strength and intelligence, we can coexist. If you underestimate us, you will regret it. There was no arrogance in the statement. It was fact. Humans were built for survival, for adaptation, for mastery of the impossible. And the Zeakins, proud and skilled as they were, understood that the galaxy had changed with the arrival of the Deathworlders. By the end of the day, humans had not only survived the planet, they had improved it for themselves. They had turned danger into opportunity, threats into lessons, and observation into mastery. The Zeakins were no longer observers. They were students, watching a species that had transcended simple survival to become an apex force of nature. The night fell quietly, the alien jungle alive with sounds of predators and insects. Humans rested in temporary shelters, sensors active, always aware, always ready. The Zeakins watched from their fleet, unsure whether to feel fear, respect, or awe. Admiral Lyran finally spoke, his voice quiet but heavy with realization. The legends were true, and yet even the legends could not capture their strength. We have underestimated humans. We have underestimated the Deathworlders. And the galaxy will never be the same. The first contact had been made, not with diplomacy, not with violence, but with observation and adaptation. And in that contact, the Zeakins realized the truth. Humans were not just visitors, they were forces of nature, capable of thriving where all else struggled. And as the stars glittered above, the Deathworlders of the galaxy rested, preparing for the next day. One more test, one more challenge, one more step in a universe that had underestimated them for far too long. The alien sun was high in the sky, its pale light cutting through the dense forests of the uncharted planet. The humans had spent the night in temporary shelters, their sensors quietly monitoring the environment. Birds with iridescent wings called across the canopies, and the distant roar of massive predators echoed from the mountains. The planet was alive, dangerous, and untamed, but the Deathworlders treated it like a puzzle. The Zeakin observers in orbit could not hide their fascination. "They do not fear this place," whispered Sierra, her antennas twitching nervously as she monitored human activity. "They adapt instantly. It's as if danger gives them energy instead of fear." Admiral Lyron watched from the command bridge, his mind racing. He had studied humans from afar, read reports from scouts, and heard legends of the Deathworlders' survival on impossible planets. Yet seeing them in action was different. Humans did not hesitate. They did not overthink. They moved as if the planet itself were an ally, not an obstacle. By mid-morning, the human team was already exploring deeper into the jungle. Their scouts mapped terrain, measured air and soil composition, and observed local wildlife. Riley, the young human scout, crouched near a small river, observing a school of alien fish darting through the water. "They're faster than expected," she murmured. "We need to adjust our sensors for quick aquatic movement." A signal from the team's forward drone interrupted her observation. Large movement had been detected in the northern forest, a predator far larger and more dangerous than anything the humans had encountered so far on this planet. Its size alone could crush a Zeacan patrol, and it moved with terrifying intelligence. The humans reacted immediately. Portable barriers were deployed in strategic locations, while scouts positioned themselves with silent coordination. Energy nets were ready, tranquilizer drones armed, and observation devices activated. The predator's movements were watched, analyzed, and predicted before it even appeared. The first glimpse of the creature made even the humans pause for a heartbeat. It was massive, towering over trees, armored with scales that seemed impenetrable, and its jaws capable of snapping through steel. Its eyes glowed with a strange intelligence, and its claws left deep impressions in the soil with every step. Riley whispered into her communicator, giving rapid instructions. "It moves like it understands tactics. Keep your distance, monitor its approach, and don't engage until we know its pattern." The humans moved like a single organism, each person aware of the other's actions without spoken words. The predator advanced carefully, aware of the humans' presence. It tested the barriers, attempting to break through, but the humans anticipated its movements. Traps activated, energy nets fired, and the predator's momentum was disrupted again and again. The Zeacans, observing from their ships above, could not believe their eyes. Even when the predator struck with full force, the humans maintained composure. One human engineer quickly modified a nearby energy shield to redirect the beast's attacks, while another set a trap that used the predator's own weight against it. Lyron muttered to himself, "They do not fight recklessly. Every move is calculated." They learn faster than anything we've ever seen. The predator roared, frustrated by its inability to reach the humans. But the humans were not only surviving, they were learning. They observed the creature's behavior, noting patterns in its attacks, predicting its next moves, and adjusting their strategy in real time. Within an hour, the predator was contained, unable to escape but unharmed. The humans did not celebrate. They had succeeded, yes, but only because they treated danger as a lesson. Every attack, every obstacle was analyzed and recorded for future reference. They were not reckless heroes. They were survivalists, honed by planets that would have destroyed any other species. Lyron turned to Sierra, his voice quiet. "Do you understand now? They are more than soldiers or explorers. They are forces of nature. They survive because they do not fight blindly. They fight with intelligence, patience, and instinct combined." As the day progressed, the humans continued their survey of the planet. They discovered plants with toxic properties, caves filled with strange, glowing fungi, and rivers teeming with dangerous aquatic creatures. They took samples, documented behaviors, and adjusted their equipment to handle every new discovery. But then a signal flashed from a remote drone. The predator was not alone. A pack of similar creatures, equally massive and intelligent, had been tracking the humans' movements. The Zeacans gasped. "If those reach the humans," one whispered, "even we could not survive that." The human leader received the signal calmly. "Prepare the team," he said. "We are ready." The humans moved with purpose, setting up observation points, barriers, and traps along the predicted path of the predator pack. Energy fields shimmered in strategic locations, while portable turrets hummed quietly, ready to activate. Yet the humans did not seem afraid. Fear was not in their nature. This was simply another challenge, a dangerous puzzle to solve. The first of the predator pack emerged near the jungle edge. The humans tracked its movements carefully, observing its pattern and anticipating its attack. When it lunged toward a barrier, it triggered a series of devices that gently redirected it without harm. One human, crouched above in the trees, launched a net with precise timing, immobilizing the creature just long enough for the others to reinforce barriers. More predators arrived, testing the humans' defenses. Each time the humans adapted, learning quickly from every strike. They adjusted their traps, repositioned turrets, and used the terrain to their advantage. Within hours, they had neutralized the pack without a single human casualty. The Zeakins were stunned. They do not just survive, they master threats that would kill any other species, Sierra said. It's beyond anything we expected. Lyran nodded, feeling a mix of pride and fear. These humans, they are evolution in motion. They do not wait for the world to shape them, they shape themselves to survive it. Later, as the humans rested near a river, they debriefed silently. Sensors analyzed predator behavior, logs were updated with new data, and equipment was recalibrated. Riley looked at the water, noting the reflection of the alien trees. Every planet teaches a lesson, she said softly. You survive by listening, by observing, and by acting. The human leader nodded. And you adapt, always adapt. That is why we survive, that is why we thrive. The Zeakins continued to observe, their admiration growing with each passing hour. They had witnessed bravery before, but this was different. The humans did not act out of courage alone. They acted out of skill, calculation, and instinct honed by a lifetime of impossible survival. By nightfall, the humans had mapped nearly the entire northern valley. They knew where predators hunted, where dangerous plants grew, and where environmental hazards might appear. They had turned a hostile, alien environment into one they could navigate safely and efficiently. The Zeakins, meanwhile, began to record their observations, realizing the implications. If a species could adapt so quickly, learn from every encounter, and survive where all else failed, it could change the balance of the galaxy. Humans were not merely explorers, they were masters of survival, capable of thriving in conditions that no other civilization could endure. Admiral Lyran finally spoke, addressing his crew. We have underestimated humans. We have studied them from afar, but observing them directly, it is humbling. They do not rely on technology alone. They rely on intelligence, instinct, and adaptability. They are the ultimate survivors. The human leader, standing a short distance away, watched the Zeakins fleet with calm eyes. We do not seek conflict, he said. But the universe is harsh. We survive because we must, and we thrive because we can. Respect strength, respect life, and you may walk beside us. Underestimate us, and you will fail. The words were simple, yet they carried weight. Humans did not boast. They stated truth. And the Zeakins understood the Deathworlders were not a species to challenge lightly. As the night deepened, the jungle came alive with sounds of nocturnal predators. The humans adjusted their sensors, maintained vigilance, and continued to gather information. They rested, yes, but they never lowered their awareness. Every sound, every movement, every shadow was accounted for. Lyran watched them, feeling a mix of admiration and unease. Humans did not just survive, they thrived in the face of danger. They adapted faster than any algorithm or training could predict. They were not simply explorers or warriors. They were natural forces, able to turn challenges into advantages, threats into lessons. By the time the first light of dawn touched the alien horizon, the humans were already preparing for the next stage of exploration. They had learned from the predators, understood the terrain, and adjusted their plans accordingly. They moved not with recklessness, but with calculated confidence. The Zeakins could no longer view them as ordinary visitors. Humans were exceptional. They were a species born from hardship, forged by planets that would destroy any other life, and tempered by the instinct to survive. They were the Deathworlders of legend, and the galaxy was only beginning to understand their power. And as the humans advanced deeper into the jungle, the predators, the terrain, and the unknown dangers waited, but they knew they had met a species unlike any other. A species that thrived where others would perish. A species that did not merely survive, they dominated. The challenge had been met. The humans had adapted, learned, and overcome. The Zeakins understood now. These Deathworlders were forces of nature, unstoppable in their pursuit of survival, and destined to leave a mark on the galaxy that no one would forget. The alien jungle had grown quiet by dawn, the predators retreating to shadowed corners after their failed attempts to threaten the humans. The Deathworlders had adapted, survived, and learned. But while the humans were calm, the Zeakins in orbit were tense. A new message had come through. The Coalition had intercepted communication from a rival faction, the Cathar Dominion. The Cathar were a warlike species, proud and territorial, and they had long viewed the Zeakins as a growing threat. The humans' sudden arrival in the sector and their visible dominance over the planet's dangers had stirred something in the Dominion. From their distant world, they were already planning an ambush, eager to claim the planet and its resources. Admiral Lyran gathered his team in the observation room of the flagship. Holographic maps displayed the northern valley and surrounding regions, showing human encampments, predator zones, and sensor networks. "We have underestimated the situation," Lyran said, antennas twitching in stress. "The Cathar have detected the humans. They see them as a threat, or perhaps as an opportunity. We may not have a chance to protect this sector if they act first." Sierra, her voice trembling slightly, added, "But the humans, they've already demonstrated survival beyond any of our calculations. Even the predators we considered lethal could not harm them." Lyran nodded slowly. "Yes, but intelligence alone does not win battles. Even the strongest species can fall if caught unprepared. We need to understand the full extent of human capability before the Dominion arrives." Meanwhile, on the planet, the humans were already aware of unusual activity. Their sensors had detected alien vessels approaching the system, large and aggressive. Unlike the Zeakins, humans did not panic. They analyzed the readings, determined the patterns, and predicted the probable course of action. The human leader gathered his team. "We have visitors. Observe first. Understand their technology. They are dangerous, but they act with patterns. Every species does." "We exploit patterns." Riley, crouched behind a makeshift barrier, adjusted her sensor to scan for energy signatures. "They're not just approaching, they're coordinating," she reported. "They're calculating our strengths and weaknesses." "Good," said the human leader. "Then let them calculate. It will only make their mistakes obvious." Back in orbit, the Zeakins watched as the Cathar fleet moved into formation. Massive vessels, bristling with weapons, approached the system like a storm. The Coalition ships were equipped with energy shields and defensive turrets, but the humans' arrival had changed everything. The Dominion could not know what they faced. Lyran turned to Sierra. "We cannot predict their response. Even our best models fail against these humans." Sierra swallowed hard. "They are beyond our expectations. We have never seen a species adapt so quickly." As the Cathar fleet approached, the humans prepared their defenses, not for direct confrontation, but for observation, adaptation, and rapid response. They deployed drones to monitor enemy movement, set energy barriers across strategic terrain, and analyzed the alien fleet's attack patterns. Every step was calculated, every move precise. The first Cathar ships entered the planet's orbit, scanning for threats. Their sensors detected the humans' presence immediately. A warning message was sent to the Zeakins, demanding the humans surrender. The human leader listened calmly to the transmission. "They demand submission," he said. "They assume fear. They assume weakness. They will learn quickly how wrong they are." He activated a series of drones that moved silently across the planet's surface, observing Cathar ships from orbital shadows. The drones relayed energy signatures, shield strengths, and weapon calibrations back to the human team. Within minutes, the humans had calculated not only the enemy's capabilities, but also potential vulnerabilities. Riley studied the data with quiet intensity. Their weapons fire in fixed patterns. Their shields regenerate slowly after bursts. They cannot maintain full strength if engaged simultaneously from multiple angles. The human leader nodded. "Then we act, not with weapons first, but with strategy. Confuse them, exploit their limitations, and force them to react on our terms." The first small Cathar probe descended toward the planet, scanning the jungle. Humans anticipated its path, adjusting sensors and deploying temporary camouflage barriers. When the probe attempted to scan their location, it triggered a decoy signal that drew it into a trap. Its systems were overloaded and it crashed harmlessly into the forest. The Zeakins in orbit were stunned. "They predicted the probe's actions before it even moved," Sierra whispered. How is this possible?" Lyran shook his head. "This is not prediction. This is instinct honed by survival. They learn, adapt, and dominate faster than any calculation we can make. Meanwhile, more Cathar ships moved closer. The humans used the terrain to their advantage. Dense forests blocked direct energy fire, while rivers and cliffs channeled the enemy's approach into predictable paths. They activated low-frequency pulse generators that interfered with Cathar sensors, creating temporary blind spots. The Dominion fleet was cautious now, unsure what awaited them. The humans did not panic. They observed, calculated, and responded in real time. Every attack the Cathar launched was countered, not with overwhelming force, but with intelligence. By manipulating the environment, redirecting energy pulses, and controlling engagement zones, the humans made the Dominion hesitate. Hours passed. The Zeakins observed from orbit, recording every moment. "They are teaching the Dominion a lesson without firing a shot," Sierra said in awe. Lyran nodded slowly. "And in doing so, they are teaching the galaxy a lesson. Humanity is not just a survivor, they are a strategist, an innovator, and an apex predator in every sense." The Cathar realized their initial approach was flawed. They had assumed humans would be easily intimidated or destroyed, but every move they made was anticipated and countered. Frustration spread through their ranks as minor losses accumulated. On the planet, the humans continued to refine their strategy. They used the jungle to hide movement, set decoy signals to mislead enemy sensors, and deployed small mobile platforms that could quickly respond to threats. Every drone, every sensor, every barrier was positioned with precision. Riley monitored enemy activity from a high vantage point. "They're adjusting," she said, "but they still cannot predict us completely. They are reacting, not leading. That is their mistake." The human leader smiled faintly. "Exactly. Observation and adaptation win where brute force fails. Remember, survival is about intelligence as much as strength. Let them learn the hard way." The Zeakins, watching from orbit, began to understand the full scope of human capability. It was not just physical resilience. It was strategic brilliance, rapid learning, and the ability to convert every danger into an advantage. By nightfall, the Cathar fleet was forced to retreat temporarily. Their probes had been neutralized, their scans disrupted, and their attack patterns anticipated. The humans had not fired a single conventional weapon yet. They had used intelligence, environment, and adaptation to dominate the situation. Lyran turned to Sierra, his expression a mix of awe and concern. "They are rewriting what it means to survive. This is more than strength. It is evolution, strategy, and instinct combined. We underestimated them at our own peril." The human leader gathered his team around the campfire that evening. "The Dominion will return," he said. "They always do, but they cannot match adaptation. They cannot match instinct. We survive because we anticipate, because we learn, and because we act with purpose." "Never forget that," Riley nodded. "Every lesson is survival. Every observation is power. We are ready for whatever comes next." The humans rested only briefly. Sensors remained active, patrols continued, and drones moved silently through the forest. They understood that survival was continuous, not a single act, but a constant process of adaptation, learning, and preparation. Meanwhile, the Zeakins in orbit discussed the implications. "If humans can survive and dominate here," one said quietly, "then no planet is truly safe from them. They will reshape every system they touch." Lyran nodded. "And we must learn from them or risk being left behind." The Deathworlders are not just visitors. They are a force that will change the balance of the galaxy. As the first light of dawn touched the alien horizon, the humans were already moving again. They explored caves, rivers, and valleys, studying predators, terrain, and potential hazards. They documented every discovery, adjusted their plans, and prepared for the eventual return of the Cathar. In the quiet of the jungle, it became clear. Humans did not merely face challenges, they mastered them. They turned danger into knowledge, threats into lessons, and uncertainty into advantage. The Zeakins realized that these Deathworlders were unlike any species they had ever encountered. The revelation was clear. Humans were not merely survivors, they were apex strategists, adaptable warriors, and unmatched learners. Every environment, every threat, every encounter was a test, and humans passed with precision, intelligence, and instinct. As the alien sun rose higher, the humans prepared for the inevitable. They had learned the Cathar's patterns, studied their technology, and predicted their moves. They were ready, not with arrogance but with preparation and skill. And the galaxy, the Zeakans realized, had never truly seen a species like humanity. The Deathworlders had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same.